There's a major update for the 12,000 Ford workers in Louisville. You can breathe easier, at least for now. Despite the pressure from President Donald Trump's auto tariffs, no layoffs are planned. So, what did Ford actually say? Leading up to this, tension was high. GM had just warned it could take a $5 billion hit from the tariffs. In comparison, Ford estimated losses of $2.5 billion, less severe, but still a big blow. Ford announced that $1.5 billion in losses would hit this year alone, thanks to increased costs and the push to build more cars in the United States. If you're considering buying American, especially from Ford, it might be time to stop and reconsider. May 17, 2025 may become one of the most painful days in Ford's long legacy. On that date, the company stunned the nation by announcing the indefinite shutdown of multiple United States production lines. Two major plants in Michigan and Chicago are closing. Nearly 9,000 workers are already out of a job. This isn't just unfortunate, it's a full-on labor crisis in the Midwest. The projected $1.5 billion in losses? This isn't happening because of China or any sort of conflict, but it's actually directly tied to Trump's 25% auto tariffs. Instead of bringing jobs back, this policy is, well, shutting factories down. When asked about the closures, Trump didn't really show concern. He said automakers should have returned production to U.S. soil a long time ago. But now, the question stands. Was America first just a catchy phrase? Because thousands are jobless, and honestly, no one has answers. Let's take a closer look at what's happening politically and behind the scenes. And before we go further, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss our breakdowns. When Trump launched his 2024 re-election bid, he promised to revive American industry. At the core, a 25% tariff on all imported vehicles and parts, even from U.S. allies like Mexico, Canada, Japan, and South Korea. Less than a year in, the reality is, well, pretty grim. Ford, one of the U.S. top 3 automakers, said it expects over $1.5 billion in losses this year. Their first quarter 2025 investor report shows key part prices, especially for electric vehicles, have surged by 18 to 32% since the tariffs began. Ford's factories rely on a supply chain that stretches from Canada to Mexico. That cross-border system has taken decades to build for efficiency. But a Brookings study in April 2025 showed more than 40% of a Ford built in Michigan uses foreign parts, making the 25% tariff honestly just devastating. At Ford's Chicago plant, 2,300 jobs were cut in May. Flat Rock, Michigan lost another 1,100. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports auto manufacturing layoffs are up 12.5% from last year, marking the biggest spike since the COVID-19 pandemic. In a May 17 CNBC interview, Ford CEO Jim Farley was blunt. "We support domestic production," he said, "but we can't build EVs using U.S. steel and aluminum that cost double. Tariffs," he added, "haven't created jobs. They've only raised costs and cut off parts supply. Instead of fueling growth, U.S. car makers are now scaling back." Ford's highly anticipated T3 EV project, scheduled for a 2025 launch, is now postponed. Reuters says the cost per vehicle has jumped to over $50,000, 22% more than planned. Prices are going up, making it harder to compete. Meanwhile, automakers in Europe and South Korea benefit from stable policies and export support. They're quickly taking U.S. market share. While Make America Great Again rings out at rallies inside Ford plants, production is slowing, orders are drying up, and layoffs keep rising. The Peterson Institute warns that the 25% tariff will raise U.S. car prices by an average of $5,700, pushing more buyers toward used cars or off-brand imports. What's happening at Ford isn't isolated. It's a warning sign. Just weeks after Trump's plan kicked in this April, the auto industry was hit with wave after wave of bad news, rising costs, scrapped projects, and halted exports. GM, Stellantis, and others are all seeing major disruptions. Ford recently raised prices on 3 key Mexico-made models. The Mustang Mach-E is up $1,500 to $2,000. The Bronco Sport increased $600 to $1,500, and the Maverick jumped around $700. These hikes apply to post-May 2nd builds arriving in showrooms by late June. Facing Chinese tariffs as high as 150% on U.S. vehicles, Ford has temporarily stopped exporting several models to China, including the F-150 Raptor, Mustang, Bronco, and Lincoln Navigator. The move is aimed at limiting losses in an already tough Chinese market. Ford is also reshaping its future plans. New electric vehicle model releases are delayed to 2026. Blue Oval City in Kentucky has halted operations, and 350 software team members have been laid off as part of wider budget cuts. Other car makers are feeling the pressure too. General Motors now expects $4 to $5 billion in losses from tariffs. Stellantis, the company behind Jeep and Chrysler, has paused production in parts of Canada and Mexico and cut around 900 U.S. jobs. Goldman Sachs predicts U.S. auto sales will fall by nearly 1 million in 2025, from 16 million to just 15 million, mostly due to higher vehicle prices. Buyers are holding off. The administration's plan to protect American carmakers is having the opposite effect. Instead of boosting jobs and output, it's creating financial strain and forcing companies to rethink their future in the United States. America's auto industry, once a powerhouse, is now on shaky ground. Without a change in course, a recession in this sector is not off the table, and economists are beginning to ask, what industry will be next? We're committed to breaking down the latest in politics and policy so you can prepare for what's next in a rapidly shifting economy. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an update. Tariffs have already brought deep damage to auto-heavy states like Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana, home to many factories and suppliers. Ford confirmed job cuts in both the United States and Canada, especially within its connected vehicle software teams. These layoffs are the latest sign of Ford's struggle to keep production and innovation alive while battling rising costs fueled by new tariffs. And it's not just Ford. Major suppliers like Lear Corporation are also scaling back. Lear plans to cut around 15,000 jobs globally in 2025, following a similar wave of layoffs last year. To fight slumping sales, Ford launched its Employee Pricing for Everyone campaign from April 3rd to June 2nd, 2025, allowing the public to buy Ford and Lincoln vehicles at employee discount rates. But even with that offer, increased production costs pushed prices higher. According to Kelley Blue Book, the average price of a new car in the United States climbed 2.5% in April 2025, hitting $48,699, the largest April spike since 2020 and over twice the typical monthly rise of the past decade. That jump is largely blamed on higher part and material costs, mainly from tariff impacts. The shock waves from these trade policies are spreading beyond automakers. States like Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana, where the auto industry is a pillar of the local economy, are now facing real fallout layoffs, lower household earnings, and deeper economic strain. It raises a critical question. Are current trade policies really helping American workers? Tariffs were meant to shield you. For decades, North America's auto sector has thrived through a tightly linked supply chain between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Ford, for instance, builds engines in Windsor, Canada, car bodies in Hermosillo, Mexico, and completes the vehicles in Dearborn, Michigan. But once the new tariffs hit, Ford's United States production costs soared, up by an estimated $4,911 per car, just from taxes on Canadian and Mexican parts. That spike forced the company to pause operations at several plants and delay investments, including the opening of its Blue Oval City site in Kentucky, now pushed to 2026. Other global players are also adapting. Toyota is exploring moving some RAV4 production from Japan and Canada to Kentucky to dodge tariffs, but that shift will take time and big upgrades. Nissan, meanwhile, stopped United States orders for 2 Infiniti SUVs built in Mexico and is instead increasing production of the Rogue in Tennessee. According to the Center for Automotive Research, Ford, GM, and Stellantis are together facing $41.7 billion in extra costs due to tariffs. That's a huge drag on their profits and global competitiveness. With production more expensive, prices are rising, and that burden falls squarely on consumers. Higher prices are cooling demand, putting even more stress on automakers. Car makers are now trying to rebuild supply chains, retool plants, and survive a rocky economy. But these changes take years, not weeks, and need strong policy support to succeed. Trump's 25% tariff policy is having global consequences. U.S.-made cars are now luxury items overseas. Ford halted exports of the F-150 Raptor, Mustang, Bronco, and Lincoln Navigator to China, where import duties now hit 150%. That loss cuts Ford off from a huge global market. China didn't stop there. It added an 84% tariff on U.S. goods, making American vehicles far less competitive next to models from Germany or South Korea. Meanwhile, European importers are slashing U.S. car orders due to doubled shipping and tariff costs. Domestically, American vehicles now cost more than many imports. In April 2025 alone, prices jumped 2.5%, the biggest monthly rise since the 2008 crisis. That forces buyers to wait or turn elsewhere. So, is this tariff strategy really defending the U.S. auto industry, or wrecking it? When Ford shut down several American plants, Trump's response stunned many. They should have brought production home long ago. That statement worried economists and industry leaders alike, already nervous about future stability under another Trump term. Wall Street responded fast. Shares of Ford, GM, and Stellantis all plunged, reflecting investor fears over an unpredictable trade climate. Ford even pulled its 2025 forecast, citing $1.5 billion in losses from supply issues and tariff costs. Despite all this, Trump continues to double down on America first. He says U.S. industry will bounce back, but experts warn the damage could last, hurting both competitiveness and consumers. Trump recently paused tariffs on China for 90 days to allow talks, but every statement he makes sends ripples through global markets. What's next? When America First was first introduced, it promised a national revival. Few imagined it could spark a crisis of this scale. But today, the U.S. auto industry is flashing a warning signal. These losses aren't predictions anymore. They're real. Factories shuttered, workers laid off, and millions postponing dreams of owning a new car. In today's global economy, companies like Ford can't just snap their fingers and rebuild U.S.-only supply chains. That kind of change needs long-term planning and strong public support. Bold promises with no real plan can break systems that took decades to build. So when jobs vanish and families tighten budgets, what do slogans really mean? Has Make America Great Again started to mean sacrificing U.S. workers for politics? That might be the most important question, and the clearest warning. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next dive from into the political and economic issues shaping our world.